The blood on the marble floor of the Siocho penthouse wasn't hers, but the trembling in her hands felt like it should have been. Amara Whitfield stood barefoot on cold Italian stone, her champagne silk dress torn at the shoulder, watching a man she had once believed incapable of the word "please" kneel in front of her with his forehead pressed to the ground. Do-hyun Ryu, the Ryu, the man whose name made prosecutors in Seoul lose their appetites, the man whose organization owned 6 shipping ports, 4 private banks, and a silence so deep across the Han River underworld that even the police whispered when they said it. He was kneeling. "Amara-si," he said, and his voice, that low, sanded-down voice that had ordered the deaths of men more powerful than presidents, cracked on her name. "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." 3 times, just in that breath. She had already lost count of the others. 12, 13. She had stopped counting somewhere between the hospital elevator and the drive back to the penthouse, somewhere between the moment she realized what he had done and the moment she realized why. Behind him, his second-in-command stood frozen in the doorway, mouth slightly open, as if watching a mountain apologize to the rain. Amara looked down at the man who had never, in 41 years of a violent and unforgivable life, said sorry to anyone. Not to his father, not to his enemies, not to the woman whose brother he had buried in the East Sea. And she realized, standing there with her heart splitting open like fruit, that she was going to have to make the hardest decision of her life before the sun came up. But to understand how Amara Whitfield ended up here, we need to go back. If you've ever loved someone the world told you not to love, if you've ever been the woman who worked twice as hard for half the credit, who kept giving until there was nothing left of you to give, who wondered if maybe you were only lovable when you were useful, this story is for you. I want you to sit with a question tonight. What does it mean when the most dangerous man in a room becomes gentle only for you? Is that love? Or is that a debt he's trying to pay before you find out what he owes? Amara Whitfield thought she knew the answer. She was wrong twice, and the second time nearly cost her everything. Before we go further, do me a favor. If you believe a woman's worth should never be measured by how much she can endure, hit that subscribe button and drop the word worthy in the comments. I want to see who's here with me tonight, because what you're about to hear will change how you think about apology, power, and the price of being chosen. Amara Whitfield came to Seoul with 2 suitcases, 1 master's degree in international finance, and a grief so heavy she thought putting an ocean between herself and it would make it lighter. She was 32 years old. She had been raised in a small tan brick house on the south side of Cleveland by a mother who worked doubles at the Cleveland Clinic and a grandmother who could make $10 stretch into a Sunday dinner for 8. When her older brother Jamal joined the Navy at 19, he told her, "You're the one with the brain, sis. I'm just buying you time." He sent home every check. He paid off her undergrad. He told her she was going to work in one of those glass buildings someday, the kind where people knew how to say her name right the first time. Jamal died at 27, not in combat, in a bar fight in Busan during shore leave, stabbed by a man nobody could find, in a country where his sister didn't speak the language. The Navy called it an altercation with unidentified locals. The investigation closed in 6 months. Nobody was ever charged. Amara took the settlement money, quit her associate job at a Chicago consulting firm, and moved to Seoul. She told her mother it was for a fellowship at Yonsei University's International Business Program. That was true. She did not tell her mother the other reason, that in a drawer in her Shinchin studio apartment, she kept a folder with every photo, every police report, every translated document she could get her hands on about the night her brother bled out on a bar floor. She was going to find out who did it. That was the promise she made to Jamal's headstone before she left Ohio. But grief is expensive, and Seoul is more expensive. So Amara took a job as a private English tutor for the children of the very rich. That's how she ended up, 3 years into her search, standing in the marble foyer of a Hanam-dong villa, tutoring an 11-year-old girl named Sujin, whose father was rumored to be in imports. Sujin was brilliant, lonely, and starved for someone who would actually look at her. Amara looked at her. Amara brought her second-hand copies of Toni Morrison and Zora Neale Hurston, translated line by line. Amara stayed late when Sujin cried about her mother, who had left the family and moved to Vancouver when Sujin was 6. Sujin's father was almost never home. Amara had seen him twice in 18 months. Both times he had nodded at her from across the room, paid her in crisp envelopes of cash, and disappeared into a black SUV. She lived carefully. She sent money home every month, more than her mother would ever accept, so she stopped telling her mother about it and just paid down the mortgage in secret. She dated a Canadian journalist for a year until he told her, gently, that she wasn't really available emotionally. He was right. She was in love with a ghost and a promise, and she had no room for anything else. The lie she believed, though she could not have named it then, was this: that her worth was measured in what she could give, what she could endure, and how quietly she could carry it. That love was a receipt for services rendered. That if she stopped being useful, stopped being strong, stopped being the one who held it all together, she would disappear. She had never once, in all 35 years of her life, been the person someone else took care of. That was about to change, and the man who changed it was the last man on earth who should have. It was a Thursday in late October when Amara met Do-hyun Ryu properly for the first time. Sujin had a fever. The housekeeper was on holiday in Jeju. The driver had been sent to pick up a shipment. And so, at 9 in the evening, when Sujin's temperature hit 39.4 Celsius and she started shaking, Amara was the only adult in a 3-story villa with a crying child and no idea what to do. She called the emergency number Sujin's father had given her 18 months ago and had told her to never, under any circumstances, use unless it was life or death. A man answered in Korean on the second ring. Amara said in her careful textbook Korean, "This is the English tutor. Sujin is very sick. I need help." 12 minutes later, 3 black cars pulled up to the villa. 6 men in dark suits filed into the house, and behind them, walking without hurry, came Do-hyun Ryu. He was taller than she remembered, late 40s, though he moved like a man 10 years younger. A long charcoal coat, unbuttoned, a jaw like the edge of something you shouldn't touch, and eyes that took inventory of the room the way a fire takes inventory of a house. He went straight to his daughter. He sat on the edge of her bed. He put his hand on her forehead with a tenderness that did not match anything else about him. He said something to her in Korean, too low for Amara to catch. Sujin, half asleep, whispered back, "Amara Seonsengnim didn't leave." Do-hyun turned his head slowly and looked at Amara for what felt like the first time. "Thank you," he said in English. His accent was clean, educated, unhurried. "For staying." The doctor arrived within the hour. Sujin was fine. A bad flu, a fever that broke by midnight. Amara was preparing to leave when Do-hyun stopped her in the foyer. "You've been teaching my daughter for a year and a half," he said. "I have never properly introduced myself. Ryu Do-hyun." "Amara Whitfield." "I know." He said it without menace, but with a quiet weight, the way you might say, "I know it's going to rain." "Sujin talks about you. She says you're the smartest person she's ever met." Amara didn't know what to say to that. He offered her a ride home. She hesitated. He seemed to understand the hesitation. "One of my drivers, not me. It's late. Sinchon is not a friendly walk at this hour for a woman." She got in the car. The driver was silent. Halfway home, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "You dropped this at the villa." A photo of her small silver bracelet, the one Jamal had sent her from his first deployment. She hadn't dropped it. She had checked her wrist in the car. It was on. She looked down. Her wrist was bare. Her heart began to beat in a way she didn't recognize. She had a bracelet in his house that she had never taken off, not in 9 years, and she had no memory of removing it, and the most dangerous man in Seoul had just texted her about it from a number she had never given anyone. She wrote back, "Thank you. I'll pick it up next lesson." He wrote back, "Amarasi, may I ask you something?" She stared at the message for a full minute before she answered. "Yes, your brother was Jamal Whitfield, petty officer. Died in Busan, October 14th, 9 years ago. Is that correct?" The car was moving through neon and rain. She could not feel her hands. "How do you know that?" "Because I have been trying to find a way to speak to you for 3 years. Please, when you are ready, I owe you a conversation." She didn't sleep. She didn't go back to the villa. For 6 days, she sat in her Sinchon studio with the folder open on her kitchen table and her phone face down, and she did not answer. On the 7th day, he sent one more message. "I will come to you, anywhere you choose, anytime. Bring anyone you want. I owe you the truth, and you should not have to come into my world to receive it." She chose a coffee shop in Iksan-dong at 11 in the morning on a Tuesday. Broad daylight. Foreign tourists at every table. She wore jeans. She brought a friend from her Yonsei program, a Nigerian-American PhD student named Chimaka, and sat her 2 tables away with instructions to call the American embassy if Amara didn't leave in 1 hour. Do-hyun came alone. No sight. A gray sweater, jeans, a plain watch. He sat down across from her. He did not touch his coffee. "9 years ago," he said, "my younger brother was in Busan. He was 24. He was drunk. He was in a bar he should not have been in, with people he should not have been with. There was a fight. He stabbed a man. That man was your brother." The room tilted. Amara did not move. "My brother came home. My father, who was head of our family then, made the problem disappear. Witnesses were paid. A police captain was paid. The investigation was buried. Your brother's death was written as an unsolved altercation with unknown locals. I did not know until 3 years later, when my father was dying, and told me everything he had done to protect my brother." "Where is your brother now?" Her voice did not sound like her voice. "Dead. 2 years ago. Not by my hand. He was killed in a business dispute in Incheon. I did not order it. I did not prevent it. I have made peace with the fact that both those things are true." Amara's hand was around her coffee cup so tight the porcelain groaned. "I started looking for you after my father died," Do-hyun said. "It took me 2 years to be sure. When I confirmed it was you, I bought the villa in Hanamdong. I moved Sujin there. I made sure the tutoring agency you were with sent you to my daughter. You planned this." "Yes." "You put me next to your child so you could watch me. So I could know you. So I could understand what my family took from the world. So that when I finally spoke to you, I would speak to a person, not a file." She was shaking, not from fear, from a rage so old it had grown roots inside her ribs. "Why now?" "Because Sujin loves you. And because in 9 days, a man named Kang Minho is going to walk out of prison. He was the police captain my father paid. He served 4 years for an unrelated corruption case. He knows what happened to your brother. He is the only witness left alive besides me. He has already told 2 people he intends to sell what he knows to a Japanese tabloid the day he is released. It will name my brother. It will name my family. And it will, eventually, name you as the sister who is now, quote, entangled with the Ryu household. I am not entangled with your household. They will not care. They will make you the story. Your face will be in every newspaper in East Asia by the end of the month. Your mother in Cleveland will see it. Your career will end, and I will lose my daughter, because the moment this becomes public, my rivals will come for her. He finally looked up. I am not asking for forgiveness, Amara C. I am telling you that in 9 days, we both lose everything, unless we decide together what to do. She walked out of the coffee shop. She did not say goodbye. Chimaka followed her 3 blocks before Amara stopped in an alley, put her back against a brick wall, and slid to the ground. He's the reason, Amara said. His family. Chimaka sat down next to her on the wet pavement in her good coat and did not say anything for a long time. Then she said, What do you want, Amara? I want my brother back. You can't have that. I know. Then what? Amara thought about it. She thought about her mother, who still put fresh flowers on Jamal's grave every Sunday. She thought about the folder in her drawer. She thought about Sujin, who had cried into her shoulder 3 weeks ago because a girl at school had told her that her father was a criminal, and that her mother had left because she was ashamed. "I want the truth on the record," Amara said. "Legally, officially."
"I want my brother's death to have his name on it, not unidentified locals. His name. And I want the man who covered it up to answer for it, not in a tabloid, in a courtroom." "Can that man help you do that?" "He'd have to give up his family's protection. He'd have to hand over evidence that would put people from his own organization in prison. He'd have to testify."
"Would he?"
Amara did not know. She called him that night. She said, "I want to meet again. My terms." They met at her studio. She would not go to his world. He sat on her small second-hand couch in a $2,000 coat and drank instant coffee out of a chipped mug. She said, "I don't want money. I don't want an apology in private. I want you to give a sworn statement to a prosecutor I choose. I want you to hand over your father's records. I want Kang Minho arrested before he can sell the story, and I want him charged with obstruction of justice in my brother's case. I want Jamal's file reopened, officially." "That will destroy the arrangement my family has had with certain people in the Seoul Metropolitan Police for 40 years, he said. "It will invite a war inside my own organization. My second-in-command, Young Tae-sok, will almost certainly try to have me killed. I know. You are asking me to burn my house down. You already burned mine." He was quiet for a very long time. "There is a prosecutor," he said finally. "Her name is Prosecutor Han Yerim. She is 39, incorruptible, and hates my family more than any human being alive. She has been building a case against my organization for 6 years and has been unable to break through because everyone who could testify is either dead or paid. If I go to her with what I have, she will have everything she needs." "Then go to her." "If I do this, Amarasi, I will not survive it." She looked at him. "That is not my problem." Something in his face moved. Not hurt. Something older than hurt. "You're right," he said. "It isn't." He stood. He set the mug down carefully on her IKEA table. "I will have a lawyer at your door tomorrow at 9 a.m. She works for no one you need to fear. She will help you file the request to reopen your brother's case, and she will accompany you to Prosecutor Han's office. I will give my statement within 72 hours. Do not come near my villa again. Do not contact Sujin. If I survive the next month, I will find you. If I do not, my will names you as the person who inherits guardianship of my daughter, along with a trust that will support her until she is 30. I have made these arrangements already, in the event that you said yes." She stared at him. "You already changed your will." "I changed it the day I confirmed who you were." He walked to the door. He stopped. He did not turn around. "I am sorry, Amarasi, for what my family did, for what it cost you, for coming to you like this. I know sorry is not enough. I will spend the rest of whatever life I have left trying to make it worth something." He closed the door behind him. That was the first sorry. Prosecutor Han Yerim was a small, sharp woman with a bob cut so precise it looked like it had been drawn with a ruler. She read Do-Yun's statement in her office at the Seoul Central District Prosecutor's office for 47 minutes without moving. When she finished, she looked up at Amara. "Whitfield SSI," she said in careful English. "Do you understand what this document is?" "I think so." "This is the first time in 22 years that a member of the Ryu family has given sworn testimony against his own organization. This is the largest single piece of evidence I have ever held in my career. This is also statistically a suicide note." "I understand. Do you also understand that if we proceed, you will need protection? You cannot go home to your apartment. You cannot return to your job. Your mother in Cleveland will need to be relocated within 72 hours. There will be attempts on your life. Not maybe. Yes." Amara thought about her mother sitting in her kitchen on Rosewood Avenue, watering the pothos plant she had kept alive for 20 years. "Do it," Amara said. They arrested Kang Minho at Incheon Airport 6 days later, as he was trying to board a flight to Osaka with a manila envelope and 40,000 American dollars in cash. He was charged with obstruction of justice, evidence tampering, and conspiracy. The reopening of Petty Officer Jamal Whitfield's case was filed in the Seoul Central District Court on a Tuesday morning. It was picked up by an Associated Press reporter by Tuesday afternoon. By Wednesday, Amara's face was on the front page of the Korea Herald. By Thursday, Jung Tae-seok, Do-yoon's second-in-command, made his move. Do-yoon was ambushed leaving a meeting in Uido. 3 men, a stairwell. He killed 2 of them and was shot twice, once through the left shoulder, once through the side. He drove himself to a private clinic in Gangnam owned by a physician who owed him a debt older than his daughter. Amara found out from a text, "I am alive. I am sorry you had to hear it this way. I am sorry it is happening at all." D. 2 more sorries. She had not been counting yet. She was in a safe house in Pyeongchang-dong that the prosecutor's office had arranged. She had not slept in 3 nights. She was living on convenience store gimbap and bad coffee. Her mother was, at that moment, sitting in a hotel in Columbus, Ohio, under the protection of 2 U.S. Marshals, refusing to speak to anyone until she heard her daughter's voice. Amara called her mother. "Baby," her mother said, and her voice broke on the word. "What have you done?" "I found him, Mama." "Found who?" "The man whose family killed Jamal, and I made him tell the truth, in court, on paper, with his name on it." Her mother was quiet for a long time. "Amara Yvette Whitfield," she said finally, "you have your grandmother's mouth and your brother's spine, and I have been waiting 9 years to hear you sound like yourself again. You come home to me when this is over. You hear me?" "Yes, Mama." "And Amara?" "Yes?" "The man, the Korean man, is he a good man?" Amara looked out the window at the mountain fog. "No, Mama, he's not a good man. But I think he's trying to be, and I don't know what to do with that. If you're still with me, if this story has grabbed you the way it grabbed me when I first heard it, do me a favor right now. Hit the like button. Tell me in the comments, have you ever loved someone whose past you couldn't reconcile with the person they were trying to become? What did you do? I read every comment. Let's keep going. The trial of Kang Min-ho lasted 11 weeks. Amara sat in the 3rd row of the Seoul Central District Court every single day, in a plain navy suit her mother had shipped her from Cleveland, with a small silver bracelet on her right wrist. She listened through a translator's earpiece as the case against her brother's killers was rebuilt from the ground up on the record of the Sovereign Republic of Korea. Do-hyun's testimony was delivered by video deposition from an undisclosed location. He was still recovering from the shoulder wound. He identified Kang Min-ho. He identified the 2 officers Kang had paid. He named the men in his father's organization who had disposed of Jamal's belongings and paid the bar owner to alter the security footage. He named his own dead brother. He did not flinch. He did not soften anything. On the final day of the trial, Prosecutor Han called Amara to the stand. Amara had prepared a written statement. She looked at it once. She set it aside. "My brother's name was Jamal Anthony Whitfield," she said in clear, slow Korean she had practiced for 6 weeks. "He was 27 years old. He liked jazz and terrible action movies. He sent every paycheck home to our mother. He paid for my education. He was my best friend." She paused. For 9 years, the official record of his death said unidentified locals. For 9 years, my mother has visited a grave that had no answer on it. Today, that record will be corrected. Today, my brother has his name back, and I want the court to know that whatever punishment is given to Kang Min-ho, the greater sentence has already been passed on the family who bought his silence. They lost a son. They lost their empire. They lost their name. My brother's name will outlive theirs. That is the justice I came here for. The courtroom was silent. Kang Min-ho was sentenced to 14 years. 6 additional indictments were filed against members of the Ryu organization within a month. Jung Tae-seok was arrested at a golf course in Jeju. 2 ports the Ryu family had controlled for 3 decades were seized by the Korean Customs Service. A police captain in Busan retired the same week Amara's testimony was published in full in the Hankyoreh. The Associated Press picked up the story in America. Amara's mother framed the front-page photo of her daughter walking out of the courthouse. She hung it in the living room next to Jamal's Navy portrait.
Amara stood on the courthouse steps that day and gave one statement to the press. "I did not do this alone, but I did not do it as a favor to anyone. I did it because my brother deserved his name. Please respect my family's privacy from this point forward." Then she walked to a black sedan that was not a Ryu car, that belonged to no one but the prosecutor's office, and she went home to sleep in a real bed for the first time in 11 weeks. She did not know yet that Do-yoon had been in the back of the courtroom on the final day.
In a wheelchair, in a wig, under a name that was not his. He had come to hear her say her brother's name out loud in the country that had taken it from her. He had cried, silently, into a folded handkerchief. Sorry, number 7, unspoken. 3 weeks after the verdict, Amara's ex, the Canadian journalist she had dated for a year in her early years in Seoul, showed up at her door. His name was Ellis Baird. He wrote for a mid-sized magazine out of Toronto. He had, apparently, been following the story from the moment it broke. "Amara," he said, standing in the hallway of her new apartment in Hyewa. "I've been calling." "I know. Can I come in?" She let him in. She made him tea. She had promised herself she would be polite to the people from her old life, because being polite was cheaper than being angry. "You look tired," he said. "I am tired. I want to write about you." There it was. No. "Amara, this is the biggest story of the year in East Asia. If you don't tell it, someone else will, and they'll get it wrong. I know you. I know how to do it right. I can put you on the cover of..." "Ellis." He stopped. "Do you remember what you said to me when you broke up with me?" "I don't..." "You said I wasn't emotionally available. You said I was too closed off. You said I never let anyone take care of me." "I remember." "You were right. I wasn't available. I was carrying something you didn't know about, and I couldn't put it down long enough to love you properly. But here's what I want you to understand, and I need you to really hear me. I did not go through the worst year of my life, so that a man who couldn't be bothered to ask me a second question about my brother could put my grief on his magazine cover. That's not fair. It is fair. I am not the woman who folds herself small, so the people around her can feel comfortable anymore. I am not the woman who says yes, because saying no is exhausting. If you want to write about the Ryu case, write about the case. Do not write about me. Do not contact me. And do not, ever again, come to my door without being invited." He stood up. He looked at her for a long moment. "You've changed," he said. It was not a compliment. "Yes," she said. "I have." She closed the door. She sat down on her floor. She cried, but it was a clean cry, the kind that has an end to it. When she was done, she stood up, washed her face, and made herself a real dinner for the first time in months. Fried plantains, the way her grandmother had taught her, with black beans and rice. She ate it at her small table. She did not check her phone. She did not answer the door. The next morning, she wrote a resignation letter to the tutoring agency. She had, she realized, not needed that job in a very long time. She had been keeping it because the shape of her life was the shape of a woman who was always available, always giving, always a little bit less than she deserved. She was done being less. 4 months after the verdict, Amara was hired as a senior policy consultant by the International Justice Initiative's Seoul office, a nonprofit that worked on transnational cases involving families of victims who had died abroad. Her salary was, for the first time in her life, more than her mother had ever made in a single year. Her office had a window that looked out over Namsan Tower. She did not get the job because prosecutor Han Yurim called anyone on her behalf. She got the job because she interviewed for it, submitted a written proposal on cross-jurisdictional evidence sharing that made the American director sit up in his chair, and outperformed 11 other candidates. She flew home to Cleveland for 2 weeks to see her mother. She paid off the last of the mortgage on the house on Rosewood Avenue and put the deed in her mother's name only, without telling her mother she had done it until the papers were signed. Her mother sat at the kitchen table with the deed in her hands and cried for 20 minutes. "Baby," she said, "your grandmother used to say the Lord doesn't send you the child you want. He sends you the child you need. You were the one I needed." Amara knelt down next to her mother's chair and put her head on her mother's lap, the way she had done when she was 6 years old. "I couldn't have done any of it without Jamal," she said. "You did do it, though. He got you started, but you finished it." She went back to Seoul. She moved out of the temporary apartment in Hyewa and bought a small 2-bedroom in Seongsu-dong near the river, with a balcony where she could grow herbs. She furnished it slowly, with things she actually loved instead of things that were on sale: a blue velvet reading chair, a record player, a framed photograph of her brother in his navy blues, taken the day of his graduation. She started running along the Han River in the mornings. She joined a book club of expat women, most of them black, most of them 10 years older than her, who met once a month in a wine bar in Itaewon and did not ask her about the trial. She took a pottery class on Saturdays. She was, for the first time in her adult life, building a life that was not organized around a promise she had made to a dead person. She realized, on a Tuesday in early spring, standing on her balcony with a cup of coffee, that she was proud of herself. Not of what she had done, though that too. Proud of who she had become while doing it. She had gotten herself back. She had not seen Do-Yun in 11 months. He wrote her one letter, the summer after the verdict, on paper. It said only, "Soojin misses you. She is at a boarding school in Switzerland now. She is safe. She asked me to tell you she reads Their Eyes Were Watching God once a year. I am well enough. I hope you are more than well." She did not write back. She did not know how. She saw him again on a rainy Wednesday in October, exactly 2 years after the day they had first sat across from each other in the coffee shop in Ikseondong. He was sitting at an outdoor cafe near her office. He was in a plain black coat. He was thinner. His hair had gone almost entirely gray at the temples. He did not stand when she approached. He said, "May I sit with you for a moment, Whitfield SSI?" She sat down across from him. "Soojin is graduating in the spring," he said. "She has asked if you would come. Only if you want to. I will not be there. I did not want you to have to weigh my presence against hers." "Where will you be?" "I don't know yet. Somewhere quiet. I stepped away from what remains of the organization 2 months ago. There is nothing left to lead, and I am not the person to rebuild it. I have been consulting for Prosecutor Han's office on a related case, legally, publicly." "You've been helping her." "I have been trying to be useful in a different way." She looked at him. She looked, really looked, at the man she had once watched kneel on a marble floor and apologize to her 14 times before dawn. "Do-Hyun Si," she said. It was the first time she had ever used his given name. He blinked, very slowly, as if she had touched him. "I forgave you a long time ago. I want you to know that. Not because you earned it, because carrying it was making me small, and I decided not to be small anymore." "Thank you," he said. His voice was very quiet. "That is more than I hoped for, and less than you deserve to have to give. I'll come to Soojin's graduation. She will be very glad. And Do-Hyun Si, if you're ever in Seongsu-dong, and you want to have coffee, not to apologize, not to owe me anything, just to have coffee, I would not say no." He looked at her, and for the first time since she had known him, his face was not the face of a man holding something back. It was just a man's face. "I would like that very much, Amara Si." They did not touch. They did not exchange numbers they did not already have. They finished their coffee. He stood. He bowed to her deeply, the way one equal bows to another. He walked away in the rain. She sat there for a long time after he was gone, watching the water on the street. Here is what I want you to take from Amara Whitfield's story tonight. She did not get a fairy tale. She did not get her brother back. She did not marry the dangerous man and ride off into a Seoul sunset. She got something harder and rarer and more valuable than any of that. She got her name back. She got her brother's name back. She got her mother's peace back. She got a career she built with her own 2 hands, an apartment she paid for with her own money, a body she stopped punishing, a heart she stopped renting out to people who couldn't afford it. She got the right to say no without a reason. She got the right to say yes without an apology. And the man who had once been the most feared name in Seoul, the man who had never in his life said the word sorry to another human being, Said it to her 14 times, in the 24 hours between the ambush and the day she filed her brother's case. He said it because he finally understood that some debts can only be paid by becoming a different kind of man. Not for her, because of her. That is the story. If it moved you tonight, if you saw yourself in Amara even a little, do 3 things for me before you go. Comment the word worthy if you made it to the end, so I know you were with me. Share this with the woman in your life who needs to hear that her softness is not weakness, and her strength is not a punishment. And subscribe, because next week I'm telling you the story of the Ghanaian nurse who inherited a Sicilian vineyard from a man she met once on a plane, and it is going to wreck you in the best way. She didn't get a fairy tale ending. She got something better. She got herself back.